Good evening. I call to order the regular meeting of the Mayor and the Board of Trustees for the Village of Burr Ridge for Monday, January 11, 2021. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the
flag
of the United
United States of America, and to the republic
for which it
which stands
stands, one nation,
nation,
indivisible,
liberty and justice for all.
I hereby declare as the Mayor of Burr Ridge that I have determined that an in-person meeting is not practical nor prudent on account of the disaster declaration issued by Governor Pritzker because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Roll call, please.
Trustee Franzese,
Here.
Trustee Chiappa,
Here.
Trustee Pavesa,
Here.
Trustee Snyder,
Here,
Trustee Matal. Here. Trustee Model,
Here.
Mayor Grasso.
Here. We don't have any presentations nor public hearings this evening. All items, that'll take us to the consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so request, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda, discussed by the board, opened for public comment, and voted upon during this meeting. Does anyone, any of the trustees, does anybody want anything removed from the consent agenda? Is there anyone in the audience that would like anything removed from the consent agenda?
You may, I'd like several things removed from the consent agenda.
Okay, go ahead.
I'd like to remove 8C, receive and file letter
Sorry,
of resignation of,
8C,
to 8D, approval of recommendation to hire replacement general utility worker, 1, to fill vacancy created by the resignation of George Maka. I'd also like to remove 8E, receive and file letter of resignation of utility worker Andre Timmons from the Burr Ridge Public Works Department. I'd also like to remove 8F, approval of recommendation to hire replacement general utility worker 1 to fill vacancy created by the resignation of Andre Timmons. Also 8G, receive and file letter of resignation of Officer Patrick Patla from the Burr Ridge Police Department. And also 8H, approval of recommendation to hire replacement patrol officer to fill vacancy created by the resignation of Patrick Patla. And finally, 8I, approval of vendor list dated January 11th, 2021 in the amount of 200. Oh, you got it all?
Yeah, I got it.
I thought we had to read it all and everything just to get it.
No,
right.
no,
No,
no.
okay.
We can all read.
That's good. That's
okay. So do any other trustees want anything removed from the consent agenda?
no,
No.
Okay, does anybody from the public want anything removed from the consent agenda? All right. 5A, approval of regular board meeting of December 14, 2020. B, receive and file street policy committee meeting of December 14, 2020.
Point of
C,
order, are we approving the minutes or the meeting on 5A?
Minutes.
we're approving the minutes.
What
As
is-
usual.
The agenda says approval of regular board meeting. Doesn't it have to say minutes or no?
Approval of regular board meeting minutes.
Oh, okay, got it. Great, thank you.
C, receive and file water committee meeting of December 16, 2020. D, receive and file plan commission meeting of December 21, 2020. 6, ordinances. C, approval of ordinance granting a special use for a medical office, Z12 2020 7512 County Line Road, G Adla. I'm sure I butchered that. 7B, adoption of resolution for maintenance under the Illinois Highway Code appropriating motor vehicle tax funds for the 2021 road program. Okay, 8. There are none on the consent agenda. So can I get a motion to approve the following on the consent agenda? 5A, B, C, and D, 6C, and 7B.
So moved.
Who
Second.
was that?
Schiappa, trustee Schiappa's moved.
Second,
Okay, because everything is remote, including our new village clerk, when you do make a motion or do a second, please also follow with your name. So we have Schiappa, movement, and we have trustee Matal on the second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Chiappa,
Yes.
trustee Matal,
yes.
trustee Model,
Yes.
trustee Francis,
Yes.
trustee Pavesa,
Yes.
trustee Snyder,
Yes.
Get them all? 5-0?
5-0,
Thank you.
I think it would be 6.
6-0.
Thank
So,
you.
okay. That motion passes. Okay, let's get back to what's on the consent agenda. That takes us to 8C, receive and file a letter of resignation of utility worker 1, George Maka, from the Burr Ridge Public Works Department. Trustee Model.
Yeah, I'm just troubled by the string of resignations here and just curious what's going on. These are on top of, we've had a lot of them throughout the year, a lot of staff left. What's going on?
Well, that's yet for a different discussion, and there haven't been a lot of resignations this year. Your comment is not accurate. But do you have a specific comment about Mr. Maka?
I've never seen this many resignations on an agenda before. Is that?
Well, you haven't been to that many meetings either, but as far as that's concerned, do you have a specific question about?
Why did he
Mr.
resign?
Maka?
Can I get a copy of the letter?
Copy of the letter is included in the board packet.
Right, it's in the board pack.
Good, I got all the pages here. I'll flip through. Why did he resign? And if you could just cut to the chase and answer the question.
He resigned because he wanted to.
Do you do any exit interviews or anything like that with these people?
Yes,
Is that in the packet? What's the reason? Why did he resign?
he resigned because that was what his intentions were.
Right. Did he take a better job? I mean, are people dissatisfied here? You have no more data, Evan? You're always good with the data. You have a million answers.
Mr. Maka resigned of his own volition. He wanted to pursue other opportunities. That's what happened.
Is it the pay? Is it the working conditions?
He didn't hit none of that conversation came up in any of my interactions with Mr. Maka.
So you have no clue why he left?
Asked and answered.
Okay, so can I get a motion to receive and file letter of resignation of utility worker George Maka from the Burr Ridge Public Works Department?
So moved.
So
we
One
have-
moment.
Snyder.
We have a movement from trustee Schiappa. We have a second from trustee Snyder. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Chiappa,
Yes.
I think you have some public that wants to comment on this before you call the vote. I heard somebody trying to speak.
I did not, but let's do that anyhow. Is there anyone in the public that wants to comment on the resignation of Mr. Maka?
You have to dial *6 to unmute yourself if you're a member of the public that wants to speak.
Thank you. Okay. This is Elena Galinsky. I'm a resident of Burr Ridge, and I'm concerned by seeing 3 resignations in this meeting. So this seems like a recent high level of turnover in the village staff. Have the staff that resigned been given exit interviews to determine why they were resigning? Is there something in the work environment that's leading to this high turnover rate? Those were my concerns, and I just wanted to express them before you file their resignations.
So you're talking about the resignation of a utility worker 1, Mr. Maka, and you're talking about another utility worker, Andre Timmons, and you're talking about a general utility worker, and Officer Patrick Patla. You're talking about 3 people that are resigning?
Yes. Are
Okay,
we,
I just want to be sure that we understand the numbers.
I'd be happy to take them
And
all.
so now why don't we take them all together so we don't waste any more time on this?
I know you're in a hurry to get to the game, but
Yeah, I am a little bit in a hurry to get to the game and get through real business in the village rather than political candidates stumping. Ms. Galinsky, for the record, is running for trustee. I've never heard her speak on such a topic before. Go ahead.
As was brought up a moment ago, Mr. Maka resigned of his own volition to pursue other opportunities. Mr. Timmons did the same. As far as we're concerned, Mr. Timmons had already been looking for work while he was here with the village. There were some issues that had come up which he was dissatisfied with. We had spoken to him about them, and he has since resigned, again, of his own volition.
What were the issues?
Thirdly, may I please finish? Thank you. Thirdly, Patrick Patla resigned as he had desired to join a different police department with a different benefit structure than is currently offered by the village. Again, that is a village-wide policy issue that he had resigned to go to work with the village of Lamont. Officer Patla had grown up near Lamont and had known the village of Lamont well. They offer, simply by the nature of their organizational structure, a different set of organizational benefits that are available to those staff that are simply not available to this staff. We have looked at providing the benefits that Mr. Patla was seeking through his new appointment with the village of Lamont. However, they are simply not available at this time. Mr. Patla elected to resign to take a lateral transfer to the village of Lamont's police department. Chief Madden can confirm the same for his conversations with Officer Patla as well. If there are any further questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yes, I'm curious what the issues were that you talked about that some of these other employees were having.
Mr. Timmons simply wanted to pursue further opportunities, as did Mr. Maka.
That's the third time you've been told that. There are no issues, even though you want to create the trustee model. Okay, can I get do we have a motion and a second? Yes, trustee?
I have a question for the attorney. I mean, if we go into specific reasons of why he left, doesn't that violate any security for employment? I mean, isn't there some privacy?
Because, it's personal matters.
I can't hear him.
I'm sorry, I would advise that the,
And put your mic on. Sorry.
that the board not discuss personnel matters in public. The Open Meetings Act allows for you to go into closed session to discuss that. Can't guarantee that what you say there would not make its way back out in the public forum, but generally those matters would be discussed behind closed doors and not vetted in public.
But they're not required to be, right, Attorney Durkin?
Thank
In
you,
the interest
Attorney.
of transparency,
All right.
we could speak publicly. Couldn't we be more transparent?
As I indicated, personnel matters are generally vetted behind closed doors for the benefit of the employee as well as the employer.
But if we have a
Primarily
systemic
for the
issue in the
benefit
village, wouldn't it
of
be
the
better to discuss
employee.
it publicly? All
There
right.
is no systemic issue in the village.
How many
been
resignations did
told.
we have in 2020?
We don't know. We can get you that information for the next meeting. Okay, and if you had these questions, which I think you receive an email like everyone else, if you have questions on these topics, please submit them in advance so that we can have the information rather than grandstand at the meeting and ask questions that you know we can't possibly have the
I'd like to
information.
work with the staff directly and get my questions answered. That
So,
would be great.
Can we have a motion in a second?
You have that already.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Chiappa,
Yes.
trustee Snyder,
Yes.
trustee Matal,
Yes.
trustee Model,
Are we voting on C on the letter or the hiring?
Yes. No, if you had followed, we're voting on the letter.
No, I haven't. I don't feel comfortable.
So you're voting no on accepting his letter of resignation?
Yeah, I haven't gotten
Okay.
my questions.
Just
answered.
want to be sure that you're voting against accepting his letter of resignation. Okay, anybody, roll call, continue.
trustee Francis,
Yes.
trustee Pavesa.
Yes. 5-1, thank you.
5-1.
Next one, 8D, approval of recommendation to hire replacement general utility worker 1 to fill the vacancy created by the resignation of George Maka. Can I get a motion and a second?
So
So
moved.
moved. Anita Mitel.
So moved. Second. Joe Snyder.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, roll call, please.
I have a
Mr.
question.
Sure.
Trustee Francis, why was this removed?
Trustee Model, why did you remove it?
I wanted to talk about these resignations and replacements, so thank you for allowing that.
Okay, okay, so let's get a roll call vote on this, please.
Trustee Snyder, I'm sorry, trustee Matal,
Yes.
trustee Snyder,
Yes.
trustee Model,
Yes.
trustee Francis,
Yes.
trustee Chiappa,
Yes.
trustee Pavesa.
Yes.
Okay,
6-0.
6-0, the motion passes. Trustee Model, can we take E, F, G, and H together in one motion?
E, F, G, and H. No, I'd like to vote on, you can take the resignations together and the hiring together, because I would like to vote no on the resignations because I don't have enough information to understand what's going on.
Okay, so we will take 8E and 8G. Is that okay, that we receive and file those letters of recommendation? Can we take
Yeah, let's
those two
take,
together?
yeah, if that works for you, that works for me.
Okay, so
Thank
can
you.
I get a motion to approve items 8E and 8G? Receive and file letter of resignation of utility worker 1, Andre Timmons, from the Burr Ridge Public Works Department, and receive and file letter of resignation of Officer Patrick Patla from the Burr Ridge Police Department.
Snyder, so moved.
Yappa,
Mital, second.
Okay, any further discussion?
Yes, can we maybe talk about it in the future about how we can, deal with some of these things so we don't have the turnover? These turnovers cost the village money too. So A, I don't know how many people we've lost, but it seems pretty significant to me. B, if it's a pay package, if it's a benefits package, the police, you've talked in the past about how expensive it is to hire an officer and how hard it is to train them. We should really get this turnover under control, understand how much of it we're having, why, and try to figure out if we need to look at benefits or if it's the work environment or what. So I would like us to talk about that in 2021.
Okay.
Put that on the agenda for the next meeting. Can we start looking at that?
Well, we'll certainly consider your request. I don't know
Mayor.
how you can make a comment since you actually just said you don't know how many people have resigned, and yet you then quantify it as a significant number. So again, to me, you're just grandstanding for, I guess maybe you're running for
Entitled to
election
your
too.
opinion, Gary, so am I. Thank you.
There isn't any problem, but we're more than happy to discuss it with you. And if you had raised
Well,
these
based
issues
on what you're
prior
doing
to
to
the
Jerry
meeting,
and other things, there's a big problem.
if you had raised these issues prior
I'm
to
going to
the
have a
meeting, we
serious
would have had answers
employment-related
for you.
lawsuit, and I think I want to get to the bottom of all of it here.
Mr. Mayor,
So,
trustee
yes,
Snyder, if Mr. Model would just follow any rule, and I mean any rule, submit this data in advance of the questions you'd like.
What are you talking
Or
about?
you and
Saul?
staff
We're
would be
being
happy to.
silly.
Mr. Model, give him an opportunity. Everybody gives you a
What we'd
chance
like
to
him to
talk,
do-
talk over everyone.
Every single week, you ask him, every other meeting, we ask him the same thing, yet every meeting, like you stated, he's grandstanded. So let's just, if you'd like something, have him submit like all the rest of us and follow the rules, please.
So can I
Thank you.
talk to the staff then? Am I going to get information from the staff back? Because I don't get anything.
So let's
I gotta
get,
file
we have a
FOIAs.
motion and a second. Roll call, please.
This is trustee Francis. I have a comment.
Yes, sir.
So it's been my experience on the board that when people resign, either from Public Works or from the police, it is always because of pay, benefits, or location of their residence in relation to their job. It's any combination of those items or all three or two of the three. Thank you. Pay, benefits, and location.
Okay, so roll call, please.
Trustee Snyder,
Yes.
trustee Matal,
Yes.
trustee Model,
No.
trustee Francis,
Yes.
trustee Chiappa,
yes.
trustee Pavesa,
Yes.
5-1.
5-1, motion passes. Let's take a motion for 8F and 8H. F is the approval of the recommendation to hire replacement utility worker 1 to fill a vacancy created by the resignation of Andre Timmons. And H is the approval of the recommendation to hire replacement patrol officer to fill the vacancy created by the resignation of Patrick Patla. Can I get a motion in a second?
So move, Snyder.
Second, trustee Francis.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Francis, I'm
Yes.
sorry, trustee Snyder,
Yes. It's okay.
trustee Francis,
Yes.
trustee Chiappa,
Yes.
trustee Pavesa,
Yes.
trustee Matal,
Yes.
trustee Model,
Yes.
6-0.
6-0.
Okay, that takes us to 8I, approval of the vendor list dated January 11, 2020, in the amount of $247,553.36 for all funds, plus $187,331.28 for payroll for the period ending December 12, 2020, for a grand total of $434,884.64, which includes special expenditures of $47,040.67 to Compass Materials America for 3 deliveries of bulk rock salt, and $24,622.24 to Unique Plumbing Company for sewer system improvements. Mr. Trustee Model.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Grosso. There's a couple of things in this vendor list, this board list that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention that I'm not sure people are aware of. If you could scroll down to the next page, Evan. Thank you. Right on here. So at the top, we've got, it's about the 5th item down, this Isaac Ray Forensic Group for, can't see the number because the screen's over it, but it looks like $10,037.50. What's that for?
Again, a question that could have been asked in advance so that we could have the information for
I
you.
want the
Do
public
you-
to hear these answers too,
And
Gary.
we would still put it, the fact that you ask for information in advance only increases the ability of us to inform the public.
Good.
It doesn't hinder it at all,
Do you know
but
what
it
it
does
is?
eliminate your grandstanding.
Do you know
So
what it
what
is?
is the reason, if we know at this point?
Do you know the reason, however, it is related to a confidential village employment matter?
Is this the testing on Jerry Sapp that we spent 10 grand on testing him? Is that what this is?
No
His
comment.
evaluation, the report that he talked about today in the paper?
No comment.
Okay, well then I'd also like to point out another $3,600 in spending right below here to consulting services, GovTemps USA. I think this is owned by Gary's friend that he told us about here in Woodridge. And it looks like it's $3,600. Is this the replacement for Jerry? Is this the cost for Jerry? What is that? Is GovTemps USA Jerry's temp?
No, Gulf Temps USA, Miss Anne Marie, what's her last name?
Mompe?
You said she
Mompe.
was a good friend of yours. You called her up.
I didn't
That's
say
what you
that.
said
I
in the
don't even
closed
know her.
session.
I don't even know her. I didn't even meet her.
Well, you
Okay?
said that in the closed session.
I
Call
know
up an
the
old friend of
owner
mine
of
is
the
what your words
business that fills government positions all around the state of Illinois, and I knew her from the days that she was the village administrator in Woodridge when I was the mayor the first time. She was a longtime village administrator, very active in local government, very highly regarded. And all mayors in DuPage County and all village administrators, including Steve Stricker, were friends of hers in the professional sense of dealing with her on many times. Now, to get to your answer, when Jerry Sapp went on sudden leave and about September 4th, we were thrust into a situation also in the middle of COVID with, pushing and putting Amy Nelson into all of this work. And I felt that it was best to get an independent evaluation of 2 things. Number one, Amy Nelson's ability to perform so that someday she could become the acting village administrator, village finance director during this period of time. And 2, to see if there were better ways we could do things in the finance department, considering that there was this opportunity to have someone come in and look at it. That's what Anne Marie has been doing.
Okay, but it cost $3,600 plus 10 grand. Oh, and you know what? I forgot right above
It costs
here.
$3,600, not the $10,000.
Well, what was the 10,000 was for the evaluation, I believe, of Jerry, this Isaac Ray Forensic Group. That's what Jerry talked about in the patch today. And now right above it, I see this, here's Durkin again with a $24,000 legal bill.
Mr. Mayor,
Legal service,
point of order.
Park Baron Smith, $5,300.
It's just-
Legal
he's not-
service,
he's
what
not
comes to that?
discussing-
And
not even
usually it's
letting anyone
bills
answer.
down to like the 10th of an hour, Attorney Durkin, right? Can we get a copy of those bill breakdowns? I'd like to see that.
Well, you were given a thorough summary. I think Evan provided all the
Yes.
trustees and me with an extremely thorough breakdown of the legal bills that completely refuted your position that you went off to the patch to talk about, that Burr Ridge somehow spends much more money per capita than any other village around. which in
Well,
fact
you're over
shows,
budget.
which in fact shows that that is not true.
No, you're over budget. You spent 165 grand this year already on legal services.
Yeah,
and
a
that's
lot of it's
42
due to
grand over
you and your
budget.
FOIA requests and some
No,
unusual.
we're gonna talk
requests.
about it because there's no
Right.
details. The FOIA requests are detailed. And Gary, if
Yeah.
you
Can we mute him,
just
please?
FOIA everything, if I could just simply talk to Evan and get the information, you
You
could save a few
you
nickels.
could have, you didn't.
Anyway,
you
so
didn't
we
do
got
it
another
until
30
today.
some grand of legal.
I
bills.
think
Can
the
we scroll
trustee's
down-
being
can you scroll down to
disruptive.
the Water fund also, can you scroll down to the water fund, Evan, now that we've highlighted the excessive and undetailed legal billing?
Let's
look at the water fund.
That statement is incorrect.
I'm
They
allowed
are
to make my
detailed.
statement, Mayor. You can correct your own.
No, you're
statement.
not.
Take mine, thank you. So now down to the maintenance, water distribution system. I see some large expenditures this, and Mr. Preissig, maybe you could tell me this, M.E. Simpson Co., $8,600. Do we get a competitive bid on that? Was it a sealed bid?
What's the question?
What is the $8,600 to M.E. Simpson and what are these monies to Welch Brothers? They may be just fine, but they're large expenditures. Do we get competitive sealed bids on them? And what are they?
Okay, Dave, try to answer. I don't know. He's just picking out numbers. Anything that's a certain number, he's suddenly just picking it out and trying to grandstand.
I mean, we're
See if
supposed to
we
approve
can
these.
answer his meeting, his questions, please.
Thank you, Mr. Preissig.
I know that's the first invoice of the system-wide valve assessment and leak locating service. They
You know,
provide the
David,
same-
I think we'll be okay with it if you took your mask off at this point.
That's the first invoice of the leak locating and valve assessment services contract. We got their proposal based on prices that they've done in other towns, Willowbrook included, so we get that discount from having them already here in the vicinity. They've done our leak locating for years, so they're very familiar with the town, so they're most efficient that way.
But did you bid it competitively?
We got the proposals from M.E. Simpson based on their work in the other towns.
Right, but so you're saying you did not bid it competitively, you got one bid on it.
So it's the advantageous pricing from.
How do we know that?
From the cooperative bidding with the other towns.
But you
Explain
didn't
what
bid
that
it
means.
competitively, so you have
Wait,
nothing to compare it to. So you're saying you did not get a competitive bid, you took one bid. and you
No,
think it's
let
better.
him answer the question, please. There is a process here about cooperative bidding. Go ahead and explain it. to
Cooperative
him.
bidding, we got the advantageous pricing from having the prices established through Willowbrook and other neighboring communities.
I mean, if we trust Willowbrook, right? I don't trust Willowbrook for everything, so I don't understand that. You didn't get a competitive bid is what you're saying. You
Will you
did.
let him finish, Zach?
Good question.
Okay,
I just want a straight answer. Did you competitively bid?
Can I
this?
ask
him
a question?
talk,
Are there
Point of order.
other
talking right now. I have
services
the
that
floor.
Michael.
other vendors that you use cooperative bidding for? Like, for instance, our rock salt.
Yes,
Okay, what else do we use for cooperative bidding?
Vehicles.
pavement marking, vehicles, crack sealing.
Okay, that's a process that we use here in the village.
And it's
Something
not a
that you
good
should
process.
know about.
I know about it. It's a bad
And
process,
you don't know
Tony.
how
You
to
can
run a
yell
business.
louder.
You don't know what it's like to
that's
pay
it.
bills and be responsible.
all right.
So you're
let's-
not
Thank you,
competitively
David.
bidding the vast majority of the village's spending, is that correct?
So-
I don't
so
care,
Zach,
cooperative, what is that handshake with your buddy? Is that what that means?
That's what you know
That's-
about. You know about
Quiet,
handshake
please.
deals, don't you?
Quiet, please.
Bill Tobolewski, don't you? You get
Quiet,
lots of
please.
deals.
Trustee Model has asked his questions. He's gotten his answers.
No, I
This is-
haven't gotten my answers.
This is the way the village has done business and how many villages have done business for years and years and
And
years.
it's not good for the public.
Trustee Model has been on this board
You know what's good for the
almost
village.
4 years.
I got
and
one
never-
more.
Want some more
Never
handshake
once.
deals, don't you, Zach?
Never once
Keep coming,
raised
Tony.
these issues in the 4 years he's been on the board.
Point of
Now
order.
he's running for election and he's grandstanding here at the meeting.
No, you're
You got-
politicizing this. Hey, I
You're-
have one more
so-
question, Mr.
Yeah, one
Preissig.
more question. Go ahead.
Unique Plumbing, the $24,600 bill that's at the end, was this competitively bid? Was there a sealed bid? That's a pretty big dollar.
Unique Plumbing had a, lack of a better word, a unique relationship.
Just yes
with the
or no,
village.
please.
No, he'll answer the question.
Start with a yes or no, then you can give me the long
No,
answer.
just answer the question the way you see fit, David.
It was emergency services we had to procure. Unique Plumbing had a relationship, had the services on board with Metropolitan Plumbing, who services our lift station equipment. So because Metropolitan and Unique were working together, we could control the lift station that had failed catastrophically back in August. So we had to initiate those repairs. It was an emergency repair.
I would encourage you to get competitive bids. I think it's highly unusual that we have all this
A
cooperative.
competitive bid in an
emergency
emergency
services.
situation.
And in general, competitive bids for everything, I think that whatever has gone on in the past, that might have been the way it was done. I just don't think it's the best way going forward. So thank you for hearing me out, sir. I would
Okay.
appreciate to see more competitive bid. Now, the last thing about the spending though, since we're about to prove the legal spending here, and Gary, you're talking about stuff. I did a little analysis here, and that's what's on your desk there, and I've given it to all the trustees, and there's copies for the members of the public here. But I looked at the legal spending for the whole year. I cut and pasted here. We've spent on legal services $161,734 this year. Now in the budget, which is in the document behind here, we budgeted 120 grand. So we're already almost $42,000 over budget, and we still have 4 months left to go. The general fund surplus was only $36,000, so I don't know if we're going to be in deficit spending for the year. I'm kind of wondering. But of the 161 grand of legal services, $145,000 is what I call undocumented. There's no words. You know, they went to the trouble to document a $4 bill on Devin Woods' easement. I would say that's a pretty good level of documentation, Attorney Durkin, for $4. But when you billed us for 46 grand or 26 grand or whatever, you just lump it in general legal services. So I don't find that to be appropriate. I think there should be detailed billing supporting each of these, and that should be available to the trustees.
I do provide a detailed billing of every daily activity resulting in the amount of attorney's fees incurred on each particular day, and also broken down into the various legal files and headings and topics. There's not one lump sum bill issued for just a total dollar amount.
Well, it just says general
I
services.
believe Mr. Walters' memo to everybody explained that.
It did not.
Yes, it did.
It did, actually. I thought it was.
Again, that's your opinion.
Well,
It did not.
It's your
I think
opinion. It's your
more
opinion, too.
transparency is always better rather than less.
Point of order.
There's all
That's
kinds of
the answer.
transparency here. In
I
fact,
can't get a copy of these bills.
you couldn't have a copy of the bills?
I've FOIA'd stuff repeatedly and I don't get it. I don't get stuff, and I've asked for copies. So are you going to give me a copy of these legal
You've
bills? so I
never
can
asked
see?
for copies of the bills. You wanted a breakdown of what the spending was. Now, all of a sudden, it's copies of the bills.
I'll give that to you.
Wanted,
Consider this
Right.
my formal request then. I would like to be copied on all the copies of the lawyer's bill so we don't have general legal services for $26,000.
it doesn't say,
Better.
it was summarized as it's always been, again, something you've never objected to in 4 years. You actually voted to hire this law firm and get rid
That
of
was
our
a
prior
mistake.
law firm.
That was a mistake. I
Yeah,
know
but
Joe
you
Snyder
did.
wanted to hire them because he's buddies with them, and his buddy Richie Pellegrino is of counsel. So that's why Joe wanted to.
You know,
bring
it's a
them in.
small community, Zach. You knew exactly.
And then he brought in
who these
Richie
were,
Pellegrino. We paid
And
him
you
too.
voted for them. You never
was a
complained
mistake.
about legal bills until you filed your petition for
No,
reelection.
it was a mistake. I did not know these guys were
Yeah,
the Rosemont
you're
attorneys,
filing the
too. I
petition
didn't know
for
the Stevens
reelection.
family was of counsel too. I mean, the
Okay, so
Stevens
let's get,
family
we have a
Rosemont?
motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mayor, before we go farther, I'd like to say one comment, please.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Mr. Zach Model voted against approval of the vendor list dated January 11, 2021 at our meeting tonight. These are bills for our village. He also voted against paying our police officers for their service in keeping the residents safe. He voted against paying our staff for their services keeping the village running. He voted against paying our elevator inspector for the state required elevator inspection in Village Hall. He voted against paying our PPE vendor for the necessary and required PPE glasses, work gloves for our public works employees needed to keep them working safe. He voted against paying our rock salt vendor for the rock salt used to keep our village streets safe by
I'm taking
keeping
the
them
vote.
clear of ice and snow. He voted against paying our sewer contract for the sewer line, the lift station improvements, so residents in southeastern portion of the village can flush their toilets without any problems. He voted against paying the vendor for carriageway video surveillance that the carriageway residents voted to have installed and subsequently paid the village for. Mr. Votto votes against paying these employees, vendors, suppliers, subcontract because he believes their goods and service are frivolous and without merit. Thank you.
Oh, those are your words,
Thank you.
not mine, Joe.
Okay,
Mr.
so
Mayor,
roll call, please.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to
Roll
make
call,
some comments.
please.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to speak.
No, you've been
I'm
speaking
a
long
trustee.
enough.
Question,
Roll call,
please.
please.
We
Go
haven't
ahead.
voted on this yet, Mr. Mayor, so
We're
I don't know
voting on
what
it right now.
Joe's talking about.
But I'm more interested in the
the question,
taxpayers'
please.
money than what the vendors get paid.
It's
I mean,
not the
you guys are more
taxpayers'
interested in
money.
who
You're
gonna
just
pay money
harassing
to.
staff.
I'm more
Question,
interested in the
please.
taxpayer and protecting
No,
their.
you're more
Trustee
interested
Model, you're
in
harassing
being
staff.
negative about everything in the village. Roll call, please.
Did we have a motion and second?
Yes.
Trustee
Did I-
Snyder voted yes. Approved.
Wait, can we have
Pay
the
his
clerk
buddies.
tell us who moved and seconded?
All right, who moved and who seconded? 8 ayes.
Snyder moved.
They're a disaster.
I didn't hear the second, though.
I think it was Schiappa.
Maybe she should come in person.
I second it.
Trustee Snyder,
Yes.
trustee Skiappa,
Yes.
trustee Pavesa,
Yes.
trustee Matal,
Yes.
trustee Model.
Oh, with remarks, I'm voting no because I'm seeking to protect the taxpayers' interests until I have.
Of course you are, as
Spending,
always.
Until I can understand what's going on.
They
I
come to
cannot
the
approve these
meetings.
Kinds of spending. I think our residents are concerned with fiscal responsibility and good
Come to the meetings
leadership
and read the
and less
package
concerned
deck. You
about
learn
who's
a
getting
lot.
paid, their money.
Right.
They're worried about their money, not yours.
Are you done?
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Model's been on the board since 2017. He's often approved village spending, just the way we've done it routinely and regularly all the time. He suddenly now has the taxpayers' interest in mind, assuming and presuming that we don't, we do. And he's done this since he's filed his petitions for reelection. He's had the worst record of attendance. And now all of a sudden, he's trying to protect.
I do
The
appreciate
taxpayers.
advertising for me
Okay.
for my election, Gary. I didn't know we could be
So-
campaigning. This is Trustee Franz.
Politics out of the.
No, your campaign.
Mayor,
I'm just doing my
Point of
job. sir.
order.
point of order.
Okay.
Trustee Franzese,
6 ordinances. Consideration of an ordinance.
trustee Franzese,
Yes.
I vote yes. I wasn't called on the roll call. Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, sorry, my apologies.
Not your fault, Gary.
5-1.
All right.
Skills test.
It's approved 5-1.
Thank you. 6 ordinances. A, consideration of an ordinance granting a special use approvals pursuant to the Burr Ridge zoning ordinance for a restaurant with sales of alcoholic beverages, live entertainment, and outdoor dining, Z 15-2020-2012 Burr Ridge Parkway, Halloran.
I'd like to
Evan?
make a motion to table 6A and 6B indefinitely.
Is there a second to table 6A and 6B indefinitely? Motion fails for lack of second. Go ahead, Evan.
Thank you, Mayor. This is 6A and B taken together. This is Z 15-2020. This is for a special use and a parking variation for a restaurant with sales of alcoholic beverages, live entertainment, and outdoor dining located at 212 Burr Ridge Parkway. This is the ordinance that the board directed staff to prepare a previous meeting in December. Again, this is for a restaurant that would take over the what is now former Fred Astaire location at 212 Burr Ridge Parkway at the County Line Square Shopping Center. Any questions? Planner Pollock is on the line. I'll also be here to answer questions if needed. Thank you.
Any questions by any trustees?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Can you pull up the plans for the location that were presented at the last meeting? Page 77 of the last board packet.
Last board packet?
Yes, the prior one. I noticed it's not in this meeting, which I was surprised.
Okay.
There was a
No, it
plan.
wouldn't be because it was in the last packet and the board approved the project at the time and directed staff to prepare the ordinance. So everything has been done the way it's always been done for years and years and years.
Maybe we could improve.
Was he at the meeting last, Mayor? Was he at the meeting last month?
Yeah, he actually has made 2 or 3 in a row now.
Wow.
So this is the plan for it, and I want to make sure that we get a good look at it, because it looks to me like more of a bar, actually a dance club or a nightclub or a strip club, I don't know, than a restaurant.
Point of order.
So it looks,
Ridiculous
it doesn't
thing.
look like a,
It's not cast as partial.
Look,
Dance club.
thank you, I'm speaking, trustee.
Yeah, but you're saying things
out
that
in your-
that have
I don't
nothing
care
to
if you
do.
don't like what I'm
Yes.
saying,
This doesn't.
I'm gonna say it.
Yeah,
But you have to base it on
First Amendment
facts.
rights, Grasso.
So I think this looks more like this is 4,200 square feet. That's huge. There's a lot of bar seating. I see whale booths and whale tables. That's the kind of stuff you have in Las Vegas for high roller gamblers.
Oh my.
I didn't know that we're moving to
Point of
gambling
order.
and bars
Point
in
of
the
order.
village.
Mayor, can you call the
Yeah.
question, please?
Yeah.
So trustee, wait, I'm speaking here.
No.
Well,
Can you call the
just finish
question,
up,
please?
finish up, because your comments are nonsensical. Go ahead.
That's your
finish
opinion.
up.
You
It
can
is
have
my
your
opinion.
opinion, sir, but I'll
It's my
speak.
opinion.
So,
I have the
so,
gavel, you don't.
so, so this definitely looks like a bar. There's lounge seating.
It is a
there's
bar.
Bars, there's TVs, there's a very small kitchen, a very small outdoor dining. That's only part of the year that they'll even be dining. So this to me looks like a bar with the music dance stage. This is a significant change in direction for Burr Ridge. And I don't think the public has been properly informed that we're moving to bars and nightclubs in Burr Ridge, especially when we know that there's another bar and nightclub fully built out that doesn't even have a kitchen, according to you, Mr. Grasso, that's immediately adjacent to this. So once we approve this one, we are approving essentially all of the bars and nightclubs that are going to come to Burr Ridge. When we have rising crime in our town, Chief, I wonder if you think
Oh, so here
more
we
bars
are.
and, excuse me,
Point of
I'm
order.
speaking. It's not a point of
All
order
the-
thing.
It is.
So until I'm done, I'm still speaking, Mayor.
Done.
I have the
No,
floor.
you're done. You're
It's my
done at
First
this
Amendment.
point.
So I didn't know. I think these are a very real public interest. I think that bars and nightclubs in town might not be the thing that we want to help solve some of the crime. And when I read in the Patch report things about people, Chief, you can
Are
speak
you
to it. The woman that
Well, you're the
fell
one who
down
put him
drunk in front of Capri the other night didn't even know what happened,
Order.
couldn't explain it. It was in the paper.
Point
I
of
think we
order.
have a problem there. When we
Point
have a
of order.
liquor commissioner who is not properly regulating the
Mayor,
licensees in the
enough.
village,
Oh, boy.
ostensibly
Come
because
on,
his son will
Jack.
have the valet business here,
Come on,
we have
Jack.
a problem.
You're gonna
So
say
I
it.
don't think,
Shoot 'em.
Done.
I don't think the public has been informed.
Okay.
You spent a lot more time informing them about your raise
Point
than
of
the
order.
significant
Point
deviation that you're
of
making in
order.
public policy by bringing bars and nightclubs to our town.
There
So
are
I would like
bars,
you to,
there
before
are
we approve
bars.
this, I would like my fellow trustees to think seriously and to table this and to allow us to get proper public input on this.
We would sure like to
Thank
have you walk
Thank
off
you.
and leave,
Thank
Zach.
you.
That's what we
Good.
as felt.
Okay, any other comment? Anybody from the public want to comment?
This is trustee Francis. I have a comment.
Okay, first, go ahead, trustee Francis.
So it's my understanding the Plant Commission held a public hearing on this proposed restaurant. That's correct, right,
It's
Doug?
not a restaurant, it's a bar.
Excuse me, don't interrupt me. It's a restaurant that serves alcohol and have
Point of order, it's a
live entertainment.
Don't interrupt me.
Zach,
Will you-
Mr. Pollock, is that correct? There's a public hearing for this?
you spoke longer than everybody else
Huh?
combined,
There you
as
go.
usual. Go ahead, trustee Francis.
I asked Mr. Pollock a question about if there was a public hearing for this proposed restaurant.
Trustee Francis.
Doug, are you on the phone?
Yes, I am.
Doug, if you can speak up, it's hard to hear you. The question is, was there a public hearing at the Plan Commission on this proposal?
Yes, there was a public hearing and the legal notice did indicate that the restaurant includes outdoor dining as well as live entertainment. The live entertainment portion was clearly addressed in the public hearing legal notice and at the public hearing of the Plan Commission.
Got to speak up, Doug.
Can't hear what he's saying. I mean, in the middle of the pandemic, I think we could, at least we could do is mail.
Trustee Model,
We
let
could
Doug
mail to
Pollock
the
finish.
residents.
See, you're going to
We could
speak
mail
over
this-
everybody, right? But
I'm
you don't
asking
like
us
it
to
when it
wait
happens
one
to
more
you.
month and mail to the residents
No,
some
no, you
information,
asked for it
just
to
like
be
we had with the
indefinite.
movie theater. We had a lot of hearings.
Can I speak
We had
up?
with other
Can I continue my
things.
comments, please?
This is a bar and a restaurant, and it does have music. It just like many places in Burr Ridge that serves alcohol, serves food, and has music. So,
It has. a
did everybody
stage.
hear Mr. Pollock's explanation that there was a public hearing and all of these issues about the entertainment and the use of this facility were aired? Doug, Mr. Pollock, did anybody from the public show up and object to this?
No, there was no public testimony during the public hearings.
Okay, and what was the Plan Commission vote?
Plan Commission recommended approval by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, all right. We have a motion and a second. Is there anybody in the public that wants to comment on this item?
Yes, I would like to comment on this item. This is Elena Galinsky. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. As a concerned resident, it seems to me that given the amount of space and type of seating shown in the plans, it does seem to be primarily a bar and dance venue rather than a restaurant venue. And rather than being geared to the families and seniors that make up the majority of Burr Ridge's residents, this would appear to attract a younger crowd from out of town and potentially increase noise and intoxication issues. Not only do I feel this would be an issue for neighboring residents, but potentially it would increase enforcement issues for our police department. It does seem to me like it is a change in direction from the type of businesses we're trying to attack, and it doesn't seem like a good fit for our family-friendly village. In addition, with the current COVID-19 situation, putting in a venue that will attract this type of crowd from out of town seems downright irresponsible and certainly not in the interest of public health and welfare with, COVID-19 propagation and what types of venues might increase that.
Thank you. I don't know the basis for why you make your statements, but I do note that the document seems to indicate that there are many, many tables for seating in a traditional restaurant configuration, including booths, four tables, and do I see just one bar area? So while we all disagree on what this says, and Ms. Galinsky, I don't think you indicated that you have any expertise in the hospitality business, but it doesn't seem like there's an overly dedicated area to the bar. In fact, there are numerous tables, as you would expect to see, at least in my opinion, at a restaurant. So this appears to be exactly what the Plan Commission has conducted a hearing on, voted on, and sent to the board. Is there any other comment from the public?
This is Trustee Mattel. Can I make a comment or is it just for the public?
Oh, go ahead, Trustee Mattel.
I just want to say that live music is actually a big draw to restaurants. And on one hand, Trustee Model is saying we need to find sources of revenue. And here we have nice restaurants and we're trying to increase business and get more revenue, but he just has to shoot down everything. He has to shoot down expenses. He has to shoot down sources of revenue. Live music is actually very attractive. Hampton Inn, Tuscany, if you remember, used to attract a lot of people because of live music. So I think it is totally justified to approve a restaurant with live music and dining and outdoor dining.
Thank you. Anyone else?
It's as big as the dining area.
Go ahead, Al.
Anyone else? Okay.
Well, I just want to know, does any trustee have a conflict of interest here? Maybe somebody provides insurance services to any of these people?
Well, are you doing any of the tool and die work in here or anything else?
No, I have no conflicts
Good,
here,
good,
but I know
good.
Joe provides insurance. I think, doesn't he provide it to Gene? And is he going to provide for this facility? Is he the broker?
So there is no conflict of interest.
Well, can Joe answer? Are you
No
the-
conflict of interest.
You're not the insurance agent for any of these people.
I am not the insurance agent for the new venue coming in, Zach. Did you
So
have
what
any?
about for Gene Halloran, for Mr.
Did you
Magnus?
put in,
and
did
other
you put
people?
any of your employees over there, Zach? Have you been there, Zach? Have you done anything? Oh, you showed up to the meeting today. Thank you, Zach.
You know, we're not talking about, I'm wondering, did
Okay.
you provide insurance?
Enough already.
You are the insurance agent for these men, right? You're going to make
I am
money
not.
off this. Yes.
Zach, you're not listening.
I can't hear you and you haven't
Not
answered the
listening.
question.
I think I heard him say no.
No, he said he's not providing it for this venue, but it's not open yet, so we'll find out. But I know he's the insurance agent for these people. He makes money off of them.
Off of them. So you're making accusations again.
I'm not. I'm just
Right,
pointing out that
right.
he has a conflict. He's going to benefit from this. He'll probably get the business. We'll find out.
I guess we'll find out. Okay.
Trustee
We've had-
Francis.
we've had discussion. We've had public discussion, input.
I think Trustee Francis wants to speak.
One
Okay,
final comment.
Guy, go ahead.
I heard an earlier comment about how that these restaurants attract people from outside of Burr Ridge, and there's no restaurant in our village that can survive on Burr Ridge customers only. These restaurants and these facilities have to draw our village center, our County Line Square, and our other business have to draw from outside the village in order to survive. Their target market is a 5-mile radius 8-mile radius, 10-mile radius outside of the village so that they can draw customers in from other areas, Hinsdale, Oak Brook. I have friends that come from Morris to come to restaurants, and they have to do that so that they can survive. So we have to have the outside draw. And that's what the Village Center was predicated on, was way back when in 2004 and 5 at the public hearings, the developer targeted the market for customers outside of the village. For the Village Center to survive, we need customers to come in. So we have to draw these people in here to get so that these businesses can survive. Be naive of us to think that each and every restaurant could survive only on Burr Ridge residents' money. Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion. We have a second. We've had trustee comment. We've had public comment. Roll call,
Are you
please.
voting on just one ordinance or both of them together?
Was the motion just, I think it was only for A. It was only for A.
A only.
6A only. Roll call, please.
I'm sorry, I did not hear the motion in the second.
Okay.
So move Mittal.
Okay,
Second, Snyder.
thank you. All
Thank
right.
you.
Roll
Trustee
call,
Mattal,
Yes.
trustee Snyder,
Yes.
trustee Model,
No.
trustee Francis,
Yes.
trustee Chiappa,
Yes.
trustee Pavesa,
Yes.
5-1.
5-1, the motion passes. 6B, consideration of an ordinance granting a variation from the Burr Ridge zoning ordinance to permit a restaurant in County Line Square without the required number of parking spaces, Z15 2020, 2212 Burr Ridge Parkway, Halloran. Do we need any further discussion on this?
Yeah, who's going to be the valet company? Will that be your son?
What difference? Who cares who it is?
Well, it's unethical. It's illegal.
It's
State
not,
employee
it's
ethics
not.
act matters.
And there hasn't been any proposal that I've seen about any valet here specifically.
Will your son get the business?
I-
Will you pressure him?
I don't know. I hope he applies for it.
Pressure him?
Well, it's
Point of
illegal.
order.
Yeah, pressure him. You know, Zach, you're just
Point of
ridiculous.
order.
Point of
Point of
order.
order.
You know, this is a guy who paid, this is a trustee who paid, who was it?
Joel
Commissioner Tobolsky
Yeah.
for an $800,000 property tax reduction for his business.
$800,000.
Okay.
Yes.
860,000.
My business is.
860,000.
I don't know why you're bringing up my
Right,
business
right.
in Burr
Why are you
Ridge.
bringing his son's business in?
But you
He
pay,
works in Burr Ridge because he's the liquor commissioner in Burr Ridge. Me and my business have nothing to do with this. You're just personally
yeah,
attacking me.
no, so this, no.
But this is very legitimate. In fact, Mayor, Attorney Durkin, can you explain the State Official Ethics Act? Can you explain how that works here? Because it has some specific provisions about this very situation, about liquor commissioners. Are you familiar with it?
We don't have to
Yeah, I'm
address that
familiar with
tonight.
state.
No,
No,
we should understand this, Gary, because you're violating the law.
We are not violating the law. There's nobody that's got a valet
Mr. Mayor,
contract.
Your son has a valet contract with Capri.
We are digressing from the topic.
You're the liquor commissioner. That's all.
Point of order.
How do you think it's fine?
Thank you, Zach.
It's
Thank you.
specifically prohibited for
It's
your
not
family
prohibited.
to
You're
have
wrong.
any business with any of the
You're
licensees.
wrong.
Thank
Okay,
you.
roll call.
Explain how I'm
Roll
wrong that
call,
it's okay for
please.
your son to have a contract with the licensees. when
Please
you're the
escort
liquor-
him out.
Explain it.
You're wrong. You're just simply wrong.
I know, but explain it, how it's, because
I don't
it's
have to explain
specifically
anything.
prohibited by the law.
He's had it. It's not prohibited by law. He's
It
had it
is.
for 10 years.
Well, it is.
You think it is.
No, I've shown you the act, you just choose not to look at it.
And you misquoted the act as you misquote most things. that
I
you
have
read.
not misquoted the act.
So I'm
Please
not
ask him to leave.
further. Roll call, please.
I'm not going to be
Need
in
a
trouble.
motion and a second.
Trustee Francis, so moved.
Doesn't move. Motion and second.
Who did the second?
Snyder.
Trustee
Roll call,
Francis,
Yes.
trustee Snyder,
Yes.
trustee Mattal,
Yes.
trustee Model,
No.
trustee Chiappa,
Yes.
trustee Pavesa,
Yes.
5-1.
5-1, the motion passes. Resolution 7A, consideration of a resolution appointing acting finance director for the village of Burr Ridge. Evan?
As stated in the summary, we've been extended absence of the village's finance director. Assistant Finance Director Amy Nelson has been performing his duties on an unofficial capacity. Finance Director is a position created by the Burr Ridge Municipal Code, exercises official supervision over the staff of the Finance Department, official management of various accounting and financial control functions on behalf of the village. I do want to note this is a bonded position. It's important that a bonded individual hold this position no matter what the condition of the actual employment may be. And that is the need for having acting Finance Director Amy Nelson be moved into this role on a temporary basis. Thank you. Be here to answer any questions.
Are there any questions by any of the trustees? Yes, Trustee Model.
So what are we going to do when Jerry comes back? What's going to happen to Amy? Because after 18 weeks and spending tens of thousands of dollars of his own money, 6 medical professional evaluations saying he can return, I don't think he's going to go away quietly. So what are we going to do when he wants to come back?
He's going to go to work for you.
Zach, I think we're going to have to discuss that as the things develop. As you know from closed sessions, that is still an issue between Mr. Sapp and the village. He's got an attorney. We have our attorneys.
I don't think it's laughing. You're laughing at this guy. Jerry Sapp's whole career, his whole family, his whole life's been living.
This is Trustee Vitale. I'd like to make a comment.
This is a cruel trick what you're doing to him. And you know, Evan,
oh, come
you
on,
filed a
point of order.
while he was in the hospital having a panic attack.
This is about Amy Nelson.
What kind of human being would file a grievance against their coworker while he's in the hospital having a panic attack?
Point of order.
Oh, boy, you're
Discussion, but that doesn't
the one that wanted him out of here, okay?
No,
So
you're the one who told him you wanted him out.
No, you wanted him, Zach.
I did not.
a liar,
That's
Zach.
not
You
true.
called Jerry a liar
Right.
on
Point
record.
of order.
On record,
I've since
you
apologized
defamed
because
him.
Evan was feeding me
Yeah.
bad information.
Now all of a
And
sudden
once
you're
again,
running.
Evan disingenuously filed a complaint against Jerry to get him fired while he's in the
No,
hospital because he could
that's-
improve himself.
As usual, Trustee Model is ruining the event for the person that we're here to talk about. This is about Amy Nelson, who's been with us, who's proven herself. We had her independently evaluated so that there wouldn't be
Your friend.
anybody else. And as a result, we're trying to elevate her for all the hard work she did, which has been recognized since the pandemic. It's been recognized and it's
Well,
also been
speaking of the hard
recommended.
work, you know, we
I'm
haven't had a
speaking-
budget report. Gary, when are we going to get a budget report? Jerry used to give us budget reports, and since she's been gone, we haven't gotten one. A budget report. You know,
Here's Trustee
maybe
Model.
we would know. Maybe we would know how far over budget you are on the legal bills and how far in deficit spending you are if you were getting a regular.
Oh, we're over
Model
40,000.
again,
Use
trying
that.
to ruin
All because of
something
you,
for
Zach.
Someone who has worked hard and diligently for the village,
That's,
just like he did for Jerry
you
Sapp.
can say that, Gary, but,
So this
the
is
truth
about-
of it is that you're forced out of one of our senior
Amy
employees.
Nelson getting the title of acting finance director.
Exactly. She's acting,
Right.
not
Now-
a finance director. It's a
Why don't we
temporary
just bring
position.
Jerry back because he says he's good to go? We've spent over $100,000 on legal
Right.
bills. You're going to pay her $110,000. You're
Thanks
still
to you, Zach. Thanks to Zach Model, we've spent 100,000.
What is in front of the board
This is a
is
fortune.
approval of the of the title for acting finance director for Amy Nelson. We have can I get a motion in a second?
So moved.
I'd like to move that we table this.
Second, Trustee Vitale.
Okay,
Who
we
did
have
the first?
a move, we have a
Yeah, we'll
motion
move.
and
Natal second.
a second. We've heard from Mr. Model. Are there any trustees that wish to speak on this issue?
Yes, this is trustee Paveza.
Yes, Al.
I questioned the situation, and as someone mentioned, this is a temporary title. She is not being moved into the finance director. If something happens with Jerry, like I said, according to what we're doing, she's only acting financial director, either till Jerry comes back or he doesn't, and then a different project will be developed.
Good point, trustee. When are we going to talk about bringing Jerry back? Because I'd like to do that.
Zach, you've
I'd
already
like to-
spoken
This
on
is
this.
Trustee
This isn't
Vitale.
about-
Lawsuit for the village. I think Jerry's going to sue for wrongful termination.
Can someone mute him?
This is Trustee Vitale. I would like to say something.
You want to come break my legs? Is that how you want to do it, Joe? That's how you do it, right?
Okay, so any other trustees want
order.
to
I
talk?
would like to say something. This is Trustee Vitale.
Yes, Trustee Mattel.
So the motion on the table is whether or not we're going to approve Amy as an acting finance director. As the
Correct.
word acting, she's temporary, can be changed, but she's proved herself to be more than competent for the position.
She doesn't even
And
get the budget report.
we're not even discussing Jerry right now. That will be decided based on other evidence or facts that we have later. So at this time, we're approving.
Zach, as someone who was barred from his own board meetings by the receiver of your company, you'd certainly do the same thing in this boardroom too. So now we've had comments from you over everybody else. And now we've heard from Trustee Mittal, Trustee Pavesa. Any other trustee want to comment? Yes.
I've worked with Amy. I understand the problem that we're having with the fact that Jerry's not here and we got the coronavirus. She has provided budget reports.
When's Jerry gonna
Let
come
him
back?
speak. Let him speak.
Point of order. When's Jerry gonna come back?
Point of order, I'm speaking.
Well, that's what you do to me.
No, you do it to
I'm not
everybody.
attacking.
Go ahead.
I'm
just speak.
commending Amy for the work that she's done. She stepped up to the plate in this time of crisis that we're having in this pandemic and the situation in the finance department. So I want to thank her for all of her help
Okay.
and her leadership.
Thank you. Any other trustees?
Yes, when are we gonna bring Jerry Sapp back? He's ready to come back to work.
Any member,
Can we vote on the motion?
Why are we doing this, Jerry Sapp?
any member of the
Why are you
public?
doing this, Gary?
Is there any
Yes.
member of the public that wants to
Why are you
speak to
so
this?
cruel?
I would like to speak.
No one's forced. The things with Jerry had nothing to do with his age. Zero.
Your words, not mine. You said,
There are my words, not your words. That's right. I would never adopt your words.
you said.
So, anybody in the public, is there anyone in the public that wishes to speak on? Oh,
Yes.
Ms. Galinsky again.
May I
I
speak?
haven't heard from you for a long time. Again, hello, Mrs. Galinsky. What would you like to say?
Yes, please. My understanding, according to today's Patch article, is that the finance director has shown 6 very qualified doctor reports showing he is fit to work. So my question is, why is the Board of Trustees looking to appoint an acting finance director instead of allowing the existing finance director to return to work? And as trustees, have all the trustees of the board had the opportunity to review all the applicable documents regarding the existing very qualified finance director's fitness to return to work? And then just, I guess my comment is to please allow him to return to work and provide the level of finance and budget documentation the village needs rather than appointing an acting director. Thank you.
So the materials I believe that you were referring were received by the trustees and myself by FedEx just prior to the weekend. Was it Friday? They've been diligently turned over to our councils. Mr. Sapp, we understood, had an attorney, and however, he has chosen recently, which is his right, to send things directly to the trustees. Apparently, Trustee Model then turns them over to the paper, to the newspaper, to Patch. And it's unfortunate that Mr. Sapp's personal medical records are given to the newspapers.
I didn't.
And so
Jerry turned over whatever
they
he
will be,
wanted
to answer your question,
Jerry spoke to the paper himself.
to answer your question, but he didn't turn over his records to the papers. You
Neither
did.
did I.
And so,
Did you, Gary?
Mrs. Galinsky, so we haven't been through the process yet. As it's been pointed out, Ms. Nelson, certainly in my opinion, warrants being considered by the board for acting finance director. It is not a permanent position. And then we will, in due course, as law requires, take up the issues concerning Jerry Sapp. Is there anybody else in the public that wishes to speak on this item?
Trustee Francis,
Yes, Trustee Francis.
I would ask that when we discuss these personal matters of Mr. Sapp, that we do it in closed session, and we don't do it at the boardroom level, and we don't do it most certainly at the Patch level. These are personal matters analogous to if you worked for a corporation and you had a human resources department and you had an issue with an employee, the human resources department would discuss it amongst themselves and with upper management. They certainly wouldn't air it to the rest of the employees, He certainly wouldn't air it to the shareholders. This is a personal matter, a private matter, and we need to discuss this in closed session. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
This is trustee Pavesa. I
Yes,
concur
Al.
wholeheartedly with trustee Francis.
Thank you. Anyone else? Roll call, please.
I have trustee Pavesa making the motion. I couldn't hear. There were several people speaking. Is that correct?
This is Skiap. I made the motion.
Okay, I couldn't hear.
And
There were
who-
too
who
many
was the
people
second?
talking.
Vital.
Matal.
Okay.
Trustee Scappa,
Yes.
trustee Matal,
Yes.
trustee Model,
No.
trustee Francis,
Yes.
trustee Pavesa,
Yes.
trustee Snyder.
Yes.
5-1.
5-1? 5-1, the motion passes. 8, consideration of street policy committee recommendation to approve the 2021 road program. Dave?
Thank you, Mayor. Here to talk about the 2020 capital programs, the 2021 programs. This is some of the highlights from the Street Policy Committee meeting conducted on December 14th. We're going to review the 2020 construction season we went through. We're going to talk about the 2021 road program, how we developed it to get there, and kind of foreshadow some of the growth in the road program in the years to come. One of the reasons we're here early with this to talk about it is because one, we could put the 2020 numbers into the budget, and for the 2021 road program, it does take a considerable amount of effort to develop quantities, the specifications, the cost estimates, but then go up for review to Schaumburg, to the Illinois Department of Transportation for review and comment, because we use the motor fuel tax funds as you approved in that resolution, and then get that back here in time for bidding. Try to get that bidding out in March, or at least sometime in the spring, if not sooner, so that we can get out in front of the contractors when they're most eager and competitive, and we get the best prices and the best value for the village. So with that, we wrapped up 2020 by middle of July. In the midst of the pandemic, we still went through our resurfacing program and resurfaced those subdivisions in Devon Ridge, south of 91st Street, the Lake Ridge subdivision, which is 81st, Lake Ridge 3.5, and Lake Ridge Lane and Court. And then Aaron Lane off of Plainfield Road and Garywood on the north side. We use those 2020 program prices also to do a considerable amount of repairs on the sidewalks, and then from restoration of driveways and sidewalks and streets after the water main repairs. As we mentioned before, there's crack sealing contracts and pavement marking contracts that are part of the DuPage County and Suburban Purchasing Cooperative. So 2020 program in detail here was completed at $100,000, $100,543 under budget. A lot of that came through the road program resurfacing contract, which came in about $66,000 under bid or under budget because of better than anticipated subsurface soil conditions, but also from the sidewalk pathway repairs. One project in particular, because it's great coordination with residents, we came in better than anticipated. So the next slide, the 2021 road program is developed like we do every year on a data-driven approach by watching the streets closely with the street survey reports. Doing that every 2 years tries to identify the right project on the right street at the right time. That's really the principle of asset management applied to pavement management on a village-wide scale. The road program street list for resurfacing, crack sealing, patching, and all those other preventative maintenance contracts then is developed off that biannual report. There's an excerpt of that included in your board packet, which rates the streets based on pavement condition rating. A PCR is very qualitative and depends on the pavement distresses observed, the amount of that, and you get those points from 100. So 100 would be a perfect street. Anything less starts to degrade based on the distresses. So the 2021 road program was developed and came up with this street list here. So bulk of the work there is from 79th to 87th Street. In the center of town, those streets were resurfaced in 2001, 2002. And then there's one street up north in Dartmouth Court off of Elm Street, was a 2006 subdivision. Old Highlands off of 79th Street was also a 2006 subdivision. Those two streets in particular show what happens when you don't crack seal. So we only got 15 years out of that street. All the other ones, the 2001, 2002, those are really coming of age now, and they hit that PCR target. So they're developed into the 2021 road program. We deferred last year the seal coating of the Village Hall, police station, and Public Works municipal lots. We would recommend that be included again in this year's road program. And then aggressively go after the patching, the pavement markings, and especially that crack sealing. As we heard about in the street policy committee meeting, that crack sealing really works and is extending our pavement life to get the best value out of the asset in the roadways. So the detailed cost estimate for the 2021 road program is considerably larger than we used to looking at. We've got about a $978,000 program proposed for this year, but the motor fuel tax, the MFT, has also gone up. In 2019, the state raised the gas tax from 19 cents per gallon, as it had been since 1990, to 38 cents per gallon, finally try to catch up. However, those numbers are also cut back because of the excellent analysis by our assistant finance director, based on industry practices that show that there's been a travel demand decrease, so then less fuel purchased, then a decrease in the motor fuel tax collected and allocated to the village. So overall, the 2021-22 capital program investment, as you would see in the budget, would be about $607,700 based on that 2021 road program recommendation. That was reviewed and approved by Street Policy Committee, advancing it so that staff could develop the bids, the quantities, the specifications, and get going on those bid documents in time for a spring letting. Foreshadowing what's to come, you can see that our 2020 road program finished up at that peak at the bottom there, or the valley at the bottom, is $607,998, as we heard about a few slides before. The 2021 road program starts to accelerate up the hill at $978,000. Why these road programs start accelerating is because of what happened in 1999, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003. In those 5 years, we were resurfacing about 5 miles of streets per year. Cost of asphalt back then was in the range of $35 to $44 per ton. Of course, asphalt is the majority of the work in a road program resurfacing contract. Now, in the last 5 years, we've only been doing about 2 miles of roads. The cost of asphalt is only about has accelerated, of course, in price to about $68 to $78 per ton. So we're doing less, but we need to catch up. We talked to the Street Policy Committee about the overall pavement condition rating on a system-wide basis, and what philosophically it's going to look like to have that kind of road program go on in the future. So again, that's kind of the foreshadowing of what's to come. The detailed numbers are on the following slide. As we discussed in the road program, we're targeting about 26% of our pavement over these next 5 years. Again, previously back in those 5 great years, we did about 38% of our streets. So we're getting there. We're trying to catch up. That's what our target is to do almost 5 miles of roads again. We're only doing 2.5 miles this next year, so we just need to try to get caught up. We plan to do that with a target like this. Street Policy Committee wants to meet in late summer 2021. It was a recommendation to have that discussion, to talk philosophically about the road program, sustainable funding, getting caught up on those roads, and what it is to have a system-wide pavement condition rating kind of as a benchmark, what it is to serve our residents in that way, and what the cost would be. So, to wrap it up again for the 2021 road program on the next slide, circle back to where we are presently. The next steps then would be we passed the resolution allocating the motor fuel tax funds, direct staff to continue with the 2021 road program development, the documents, get those up for review by IDOT. We'll have that bid opening anticipated again in March 21. It all depends on how things go at the state level. We understand there's some delays up there in Schaumburg, District 1, but we're going to try to push it fast to try to target that spring letting and get out in front of it. And then construction would be anticipated in June as normal. So on the last slide, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do any trustees have any questions? Yes.
Mr. President, thank you. I'm pleased to see that we're allocating more money to the roads. I think the roads and sidewalks are one of the critical things that, along with police protection, are two of our most important things. So I'm pleased to see that. I'm concerned by the ramp up. I'd like to allocate more money. I'm concerned we're going to get where we're going to get it. And so I would remind the board that as we consider spending in the future, we withhold it on discretionary things like tents or handouts or cash to people's friends and buddies, and that instead we focus on funding the road program, because the hundreds of thousands of dollars we spent this year took out of the budget for over there, largely businesses that could have paid for it themselves. We should have put that into the road program. So as we have opportunities going forward, please remember every dollar we steal is coming out of this budget.
Any other trustees?
This is Trustee Maytel. I want to commend Mr. Preissig. I think they do a very good job of keeping up with the roads and maintaining them. And this is a very detailed list of, the PCR for all the streets, and it's good to repair before things get totally destroyed and then they have to rehab or replace the roads. I had a quick question. So I believe the goal is you want to stay above 85% of PCR, which makes sense. But if we could bring that down to like 84, I think there would be like about 74,000 of savings. But I mean, this was just a question that I had. And of course, I respect your judgment.
Yeah, as we discussed at the Street Policy Committee in summer, we're going to talk philosophically about what that looks like at a system-wide level to maintain a high pavement condition rating. That's just the benchmark, the snapshot of where we are now. What would it look like to keep funding the road program to maintain the streets? So overall, that PCR is maintained. We've got different levels of streets, your residential streets, your collector streets. And we don't know what that would look like, but we should have more detail in summer.
Right, and then we will, Anita and the rest of the trustees, we will be discussing this substantively and philosophically this summer, specifically to come up with a consensus policy about the streets and road refurbishments going forward. It's always been one of the rightly prideful things about Burr Ridge is that we have been able to have a very high level of roads in our village. That comes, of course, with expenses. And so we have to look at it this summer, which is why I've asked the Street Policy Committee, which I chair, to look at that this summer and have a detailed presentation to the board and to map out a program going forward for the foreseeable future.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
This is Trustee.
All right, is there anybody in the public, any other trustees who would like to comment?
Trustee Francis.
Yes, sir.
So I want to thank staff, Dave Preissig and his staff for putting the RFPs, the request for proposals out early, getting them out on the street early last year so that the village and the residents could enjoy the savings that we reaped, and getting the road program accomplished under budget. Did a great job. And so this will help to allow the staff to get the request for proposals out early again this year. So when the contractors are most hungry in the early spring, we can get the best possible prices and do the best job we can for the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any other trustees?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
Snyder?
Schneider, go ahead.
We had a 5-1 vote for the new restaurant going into County Line Square because it's going to generate sales tax for the village. Yet one of our fellow trustees voted no. The same trustee also votes and makes a big grandstand like how great the roads need, and he's all proud of everything. Well, if the County Line Square new restaurant goes in and generates taxes, that will benefit the road program. Just like to make that statement.
Yes, but we spent far more supporting the restaurants than we make off of them in taxes, so it doesn't add up, Joe. But I do generally support family-friendly restaurants in the village. I would have supported the right one, and just like that trucking company over there, the looks horrible. We could have had a gas station there. We could have had anything else there that brings in money and revenue. We didn't look for it. We don't do that. So
and we've looked at having a gas station in the village
at
various
various
opportunities.
Your
and
theory
unable
doesn't
to
hold water,
attract
Joe.
anyone who would put a gas station
Doesn't add up.
Thank you, Dave.
You.
Is there any member of the public, is there any member of the public that would like to talk about item 8A, the Street Policy Committee recommendation to approve the 2021 road program? Okay, we have a motion and a second.
That would be to approve the committee recommendation.
Yes, just to approve the recommendation, which will start the bid process. And then contracts will come back on, as scheduled in March for final approval. We have a motion and a second.
Motion.
Sue, was there a motion and second?
No, there was not.
Can we get a motion and second?
So move, trustee Mittal.
This is Model for second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Matal,
Yes.
trustee Model,
Yes.
trustee Francis,
Yes.
trustee Chiappa,
Yes.
trustee Pavesa,
Yes.
trustee Snyder,
Yes.
6-0.
6-0, the motion passes. This takes us to item 8B, consideration of special use for a preschool at 7508 County Line Road, Z14, 2020, Kamala.
Mayor, I'd like to turn it over to Planner Doug Pollock to give an overview of this petition. Thank you.
Doug?
Thank you, Evan, Mayor, and the board. I'd like to present to you the recommendation of the Plan Commission to approve a special use for a building addition, a special use for a daycare center, and a variation to permit a reduction of the required 8-foot side yard landscaping area. The commission reviewed this at 3 different meetings of the Plan Commission. The proposed use of the property is for a Montessori school, which is technically classified as a daycare center or preschool, which is a permitted use in the T1 district, which this is a part of. The property at 7508 County Line Road is currently developed and occupied as a funeral home, Coglianese Funeral Home. The planned improvements to the property include a 2,600 square foot building addition, an outdoor play area, and reconfigured parking, access, and landscaping. The existing building is about 4,500 square feet. The petitioner originally filed with a number of variations and a much larger addition. After 2 continuances at the Plan Commission, the plan size of the building was reduced. All but 1 variation was eliminated, and they were able to address the Plan Commission's concerns, which were with the outdoor play area and with rear yard landscaping and perimeter landscaping in particular. The petitioner is proposing a solid fence around the outdoor play area, as well as solid perimeter landscaping on both sides of the property that will further provide buffer between the outdoor play area and the adjacent office buildings. The petitioner has also agreed to create or enhance the rear yard, transitional yard adjacent to the residential properties to the west, with improved drainage, fencing, and landscaping, similar to what is at the Shirley Ryan Ability Labs, but actually enhanced above and beyond what was provided for the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab property. The petitioner has also volunteered to remove the front yard turnaround and replace that with green space, which the overall net impervious area is increased as part of this development because of that and the play area landscaping. The petition's also added a public sidewalk, has volunteered to construct a public sidewalk on South Frontage Road. This is not required, but the petitioner has volunteered to provide that, as well as underground stormwater storage, which again is not required for this particular development, but the petitioner has agreed to provide those enhancements to improve the property. In regards to the variation, the Plan Commission determined that the property was unique in that it was smaller than the minimum sized properties allowed in the T1 district. The T1 district requires, and its regulations are based on 1 acre or 40,000 square foot lots and 125 foot wide lots. This property is just over 30,000 square feet, is only 100 foot wide. As a result of it being undersized, it's platted before the ordinance was in effect, and that's why it's undersized. But as a result, it is difficult to comply with those 8-foot side yard setbacks. The petitioner has provided 3-foot setbacks, which meets the intent of the code and allows an area where solid landscape screening can be provided. So based on those conditions, the Plan Commission determined that there was a hardship that was unique to this property and therefore recommended approval of the zoning variation. I want to note that Commissioner Broling is on the line as the official representative of the Plan Commission. If you have any questions for Commissioner Broling, I also wanted to note the good work that the Plan Commission did on this petition, bringing forward a plan that, quite frankly, when originally presented, had very little chance or no chance of approval. But the Plan Commission did work with staff and with the petitioner to come up with a plan that benefits the petitioner as well as the village. So in conclusion, the Plan Commission is recommending approval of this petition, and if so directed, staff would prepare ordinances for the next board meeting.
Okay, first of all, thank you, Doug, for that presentation. Are there any questions by any of the trustees of Mr. Pollack or Commissioner Broly? Yes.
I've been following this project ever since it came to in front of the Planning Commission, and I know that the petitioner did go in front of the Planning Commission at least 3 times. I know the Planning Commission did a lot of work with the petitioner to get it this far, and I like the plan. I think it works. I think it's a great addition to the village. Provide education to our kids here in the village of Burr Ridge, and so I think it was a lot of hard work by staff and the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other trustees have any questions or comments?
This is Trustee Mittal.
Yes.
Sorry?
Yes, go ahead, sorry.
So I like the idea of having a Montessori/daycare center. I think the location is great, and it's good to have children, and it'll probably be used by non-Burr Ridge residents as well. The only concern I have is the child ballet system. I have questions about the teacher-child ratio, which apparently they said they will have about 126 children. And 12 staff members, so that's 1:10, which it is my understanding that for toddlers, it's actually supposed to be 1:8 or 1:6. And the thing I'm most concerned about is they said that during pickup, like drop-off time in the morning, I'm looking at this diagram and it's almost like a drive-in kind of a thing. And they said that they will pick up from the cars, they were going to pick up 28 toddlers in 15 minutes. That's between 8 and 8:15, 48 between 8:15 and 8:30. These are toddlers, so I'm sure the teacher will pick them up from the car and then take them in the classroom. But if there are only 12 teachers, I just can't figure out how they're going to do that. So I just want to, I'm a little concerned about the safety of the drop-off procedure. I'm sure pickup should be fine because parents park and go inside, but I would like further clarification on how the drop-off would work, or if they have done it in other locations and it's gone smoothly.
Or is the petitioner here? Petitioner here or on the line?
Good evening. My name is Zubin Kamula. I'm counsel for the petitioner, and with me is Alon Walsh, a representative. Alon, do you want to respond to the trustees' questions?
Sure. We spent, I think, every meeting and then obviously a lot of time outside of the meeting preparing for that very question. We provided a drop-off video. We've done what we call the child valet system in a couple other locations elsewhere in the country with great success. We also provided a drop-off and pickup and parking analysis where we, explained how many teachers and how many cars we could load and unload. There's a timer associated with the video, and we've done the math, and the math is very conservative and works very well. Also, with regard to the child to teacher ratio, those are regulated by the state, and it also depends on what age group it is. So, for various ages, the max group size changes for infant, toddler, and what we call children's house. So we must and have to comply with all those state regulations, and those are taken into account. So we're very comfortable with what I would consider conservative estimates that have been included in our drop-off and pickup plan, and then also proven by the fact that we've done this multiple times before. So actually,
One at a time. Go ahead, Trustee Mittal.
I said, which other locations do you have centers like these at?
We have done this. Actually, we created this video for Wicker Park in Chicago, or the drop off and pick up the valet. We've also done it in San Francisco. And I will also say that we have it prepared to go. We don't anticipate that it will be used that often, but we're very much prepared to put it into action. So it's a belts and suspenders approach to I would call it perceived congestion during the drop off and pickup time, but I think we have certainly a belts and suspenders ability to offload and load children at this facility.
Okay, thank you.
Has your questions been answered, Trustee Mittal?
Yes.
Okay, any other trustee have any questions?
This is Trustee Franzese. I have a comment.
Yes, sir.
So I just want to thank the Plan Commission for all their hard work that they did in working with the developer and staff and the neighbors in bringing this petition to fruition. Certainly the village is going to benefit by the increased stormwater retention that the petitioner's putting in his underground storage of stormwater and also the additional green space that's going in. Petitioner is also installing additional landscape buffers to prevent noise and from migrating to the neighbors to the west, which has been a concern. And I just want to thank the petitioner for listening to the Plan Commission, listening to the neighbors, and then modifying his proposal so that all those concerns are met. So I think this is a win-win for the neighbors, the residents, and the village. And thank you. And welcome, hopefully welcome to the village.
Thank you. Any other trustees have a comment or a question? Any member of the public? Does any member of the public have any comment or question on this item?
Hello, this is Carol Novak.
Yes, Ms. Novak.
I have never heard, I've been watching this on the Plan Commission all along. I have never heard anybody say anything that there's a extended stay hotel about 300 feet away. I'm just wondering how that's going to be.
And your point?
Well, pedophiles watching the children.
You claim there are pedophiles watching the children from the extended stay.
It could be.
Oh, you mean it could be?
It could be, yeah.
Okay.
It's never been brought up. That's all.
It has now.
Yeah.
Okay. And anything more you'd like to say on that?
No.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the public that would like to speak on this? All right, before I call for a motion and a vote, I also wanted to congratulate the potential of having a facility like this. The name Montessori, of course, is a brand name that's well respected. To have it affiliated with Burr Ridge, I think is a good thing. I also took note, as trustee Francis did, about the green space accommodation in the front. I thought that was a really nice gesture. And also I was intrigued about how they uniquely handled the stormwater situation. So I do think there's some very meritorious aspects of this project for the village. Can I get a motion and second to approve the special use for preschool at 7508 County Line Road, Z14, 2020, Amala?
Direct staff.
To direct staff to prepare the appropriate ordinance. Thank you.
Trustee Francis, so moved.
Second, Paveza.
Okay, we got moved by Francis, second by Paveza. Roll call, please.
Trustee Francis,
Yes.
trustee Paveza,
Yes.
trustee Snyder,
Yes.
trustee Matal,
Yes.
trustee Model,
Yes.
trustee Chiappa,
Yes.
6-0.
0, that motion passes. Welcome to the Village of Burr Ridge. That takes us to item 9, public comment. Is there anyone online or in the ordinance, in the boardroom that would like to have public comment on any item? Does not have to be on the agenda. Evan, anybody being asked to recognize? Is there anyone here in the boardroom? All right, no public comment.
I have a comment, but I'm online, not in the boardroom. Ellen Raymond.
Oh, okay. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so 3 quick things. One is, thank you, Evan. I saw an agenda tab and could find the subsequent electoral board hearing. So I believe that's new because I didn't have to go to documents. So thank you. And I also saw it on the Friday e-briefs. So thanks for making it easier to find. I also wanted to thank the police department. I don't know if the end result will be good, but we've all been looking for a lost dog named Zoe. And I know from other people in the search that our police have been very kind about protecting her at times in the street. So I thought that was very nice for them to help the community. I have a question that maybe nobody can answer. I understand over 65 can be vaccinated soon. I don't know if it's by county. If it is by county and I live in the Cook County side of Burr Ridge, I know Burr Ridge is always considered DuPage because I have a DuPage phone number. But does anybody know if county matters and if I would be considered Cook or DuPage?
I'll have some comment on that, Ellen, during reports and communications. Give you some guidance, but it's still a moving target. But we're moving right on to reports and communications, and it isn't our tradition to answer questions at public comment. But if you stay on the line, you may hear me talk about that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, is there any other public comments?
Hello, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Yes, hi, good evening. This is Patricia Davis, resident of Burr Ridge. Just for public comment, I'm curious, is Police Chief Madden in the audience?
He is in the audience.
Okay, great, thank you. So I have a question, if you don't mind.
But we don't usually take questions. Just Ms. Davis will certainly hear you out, but we don't engage in Q&A at public comment.
Okay, well, it's really more. It's really more of a rhetorical question. And my question is this, Chief Madden, how are those ducks doing? A recent Burr Ridge police blotter shows that on December 26th, police responded to a call about ducks enjoying water in a hole in some ice near Sylvan Glen Court. So Chief, I just wonder if those ducks are safe, because I maintain that Burr Ridge residents are not safe. On December 4th, as you know, around 4 p.m., an armed man was caught on a Nest doorbell camera approaching a house and rummaging through an unlocked car in the 2000 block of Savoy Club Court. The resident reported that only a remote garage door opener was taken. But Burr Ridge residents, and importantly, the residents in Savoy Club, were not told about this armed man in their presence, not for another week. A Nixle alert about this danger was never sent, never, to the subscribers of the Nixle Emergency Communications System, a system designed to do just that, to alert residents about, quote, urgent, must know, end quote, situations, emergency alerts. And neither was a Nixle advisory sent about this armed man in our presence to Nixle subscribers. So no, Burr Ridge residents only learned about this incident a full week later, on December 11th, when the village's weekly e-brief was emailed to subscribers. It was a generalized statement on the increase in property crimes, and it never mentioned the specifics of that Savoy Club incident, only that, quote, no one was harmed, end quote. So why weren't the residents of Burr Ridge alerted via Nixle of the presence of an armed person in our community in real time, as Nixle, I believe, is designed to do? So let's talk about the differences between those two communications methods, the Nixle and the village's weekly e-briefs. Thank you, Mr. Walter. He informed me today that there are 6,024 Nixle subscribers. 3,700 receive messages via text and around 2,200 receive them via email. And non-residents may receive Burr Ridge Nixle messages also. There's no way to parse that out. But you can bet that the majority of those 6,000 Nixle subscribers are residents of our village. And I want to thank Janet Kowal, who sends out the weekly village e-briefs, who told me this morning that she has approximately 2,000 email subscribers. So that's 6,000 Nixle subscribers versus 2,000 village e-brief subscribers. That's quite a discrepancy. The presence of an armed man in our community on December 4th was never disclosed over Nixle. You weren't told about him unless you were a subscriber of e-briefs. And it's possible tonight is the first time that residents are hearing about this at all. So now our police department sent out a Nixle advisory on December 7th, but that only mentioned an increase in so-called, quote, ruse residential burglary attempts, where perpetrators try to distract residents by posing as public utility workers. That December 7th Nixle advisory never mentioned that armed suspect caught on camera a few days before. So I just want to say the December 4th incident wasn't even posted on the village's website. It's not even included in a list of all the Nixle messages sent from the police department. This incident was not reported in a timely way via Nixle, never, not once. So I'm asking the board to please, would you put this discussion of the optimal use of the Nixle emergency communications system on the next meeting agenda? This topic, I think, is very critical for the safety of all residents in our community. But I guess the safety of those ducks I mentioned earlier are more important than the safety of our community. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that has any public comment? Okay, it takes us to 10, reports and communications from village officials. Any trustees want to make a report of communication?
This is Trustee Paveza.
Yes, Al.
Just to make a comment about the COVID situation. I went to see my doctor earlier this week, and I asked him, the member of the DuPage Medical Group, asked him what's going on as far as the shots for us seniors. And he said that most likely we'll be getting calls in a couple of weeks to come in for our first shots.
Good news. We'll see how that shakes out. Any other trustees have any reports or communications? Yes?
Yes, thank you, Vaso. I'd like to kind of jump on what the residents said, I believe Ms. Davis, about the crime, the use of the Nixle system. You know, I wrote an article this week talking about the rising crime in Burr Ridge, and I'm not blaming the chief, especially, or the officers. I mean, they're doing their best. I'm blaming the board. We've not had an open and honest discussion about how we can do better policing in Burr Ridge. We approve things ad hoc, like the cameras, which I supported. I think those were a great idea. I think we could have talked about that sooner. I think we need to talk about things like the proper use of the Nixle system and why these alerts weren't going out. I feel like, you've accused me of politicizing, but I feel like you want to spin, the mayor wants to spin the village here and only let out the good news. He likes to use the Nixle to campaign and send out information about COVID, which is nice, but there's other ways to do that. The Nixle should only be about emergency situations, especially things like an armed robbery. And I don't know why that wasn't used. I doubt that it was the chief who thought of that. I feel like maybe he was pressured to not send out an alert. So I'd like to have a comprehensive talk about reducing crime in the village, using better technology, considering things like part-time officers or other solutions, looking at the police staffing, if the 12-hour shifts are really the right things. There's a lot of ways to do things better, but if we don't have a discussion about it, and the 2020 numbers are going to be out soon, and I'm curious to hear those numbers from the chief and see what the trends are. And again, it's not a blaming of the chief. It's, if anything is wrong, it's us not giving them the right tools and not looking at better solutions. There's outside experts we could bring in. So I'd like the board to have this. I asked it to be put on the agenda this week. Evan, will it be on the next board meeting agenda? Well, I'm a trustee and I've requested, according to board policy, it should be on the agenda. So I'll expect that we have a nice broad discussion. You can talk to me. We'll make sure we get all the details on there about that. The other thing I'd like to talk about again is this legal spending. I don't think we've had an appropriate explanation for the legal spending, the over budget legal spending, and I will be looking for those bills so I can get actual copies of them and review it. But I think we need to have a discussion about this and how it's getting approved and where it's going. Hopefully that'll be on next meeting agenda. And then, finally, the budget reports that I mentioned we haven't been getting. I would like to start getting regular budget reports from the acting finance director. But more importantly, I'd like to find out when we can have a discussion about when Jerry Sapp can get back to work. Because it is, as a trustee for the village, it is my interest to protect the village from a lawsuit, to make sure the residents are getting a good value for their tax dollars, that we're not spending already is well over 6 figures in trying to eliminate Jerry Sapp. For whatever reason, I still don't understand why you want this man out. You spent a lot of money on it. And I think the board needs to have a discussion, whether it's in closed session or an open session. The public at this point deserves to know, and Jerry certainly isn't hiding anything. He's made his information public. He is the one who talked to the patch. He is the one who shared his information. And I don't know why, but I can only assume, I believe it's because he doesn't think he's getting a fair shake here from the board. I can assume that because believes Gary Grasso is filtering the information to the board. I can tell you when I listened in the closed sessions that I don't believe the board was given the full information about the true risk of a lawsuit. The risk of a lawsuit was downplayed. I think it's a serious risk. And I think if we're going to be, doing this, wasting money, 6 figures of money here to keep this man out, then risking what's probably going to be $1 million lawsuit, multi-million-dollar lawsuit, perhaps we should really be more prudent than we're being now. So I would like to have a discussion about getting Jerry Sapp back to work. Can we have that on the next agenda? Closed session or open, I don't care. Will that be on the next agenda, Evan?
We have not begun agenda preparations for the next meeting.
So I'm formally requesting that you put it on next agenda according to the board policy that was passed in 1993, which I know you're aware of because you provided it. I've seen a copy of it recently. So I'd like to have that on the next agenda, getting Jerry Sapp back to work. Thank you.
Anybody else with public, any other reports and communications from village officials? Any other trustees? Okay, the village hall has reopened to the public. Staff are alternating their days between being in the office and working from home. The staff is available to assist residents during our normal business hours of Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. We had been closed in an effort to keep our residents and employees safe and healthy. Thank you for your patience and understanding during this time. I have been trying to just keep up with the information about vaccine availability, both in Cook County and DuPage County. It's a little easier to get the information from DuPage just because it's a smaller situation, and Cook County being much bigger, other issues. But generally speaking, most of the residents know that the one that we're in 1A, which is the frontline health care workers. And that appears to be progressing rather rapidly to the point where I heard today from Burr Ridge infectious disease people that they're starting to plan for 1B. Now, it's not clear exactly how that planning is going to happen. First of all, the state has now lowered the entry for 1B vaccines to people 65 years and older. I've heard different information, starting with they're going to try to get the older of that group, obviously those in their 70s and 80s and 90s, maybe even hundreds, of course, first, and also people with the comorbidities ahead of someone who's just 65 and otherwise healthy, but that still isn't very, very clear. So as Al mentioned, that seems to be what's going on. I would encourage people to at least contact, use my chart for some entities, or go to the internet. Calling, of course, doesn't really help because it just clogs up the lines, but try to call your doctors and ask them what their procedure is going to be if you're in that group of 65 and older. Just remember that if there's 2 injections that you have to get, and you have to get the same drug, whether it's going to be the Pfizer drug, the Moderna drug, the other 2 that are coming out. So that's all I know right now, but I will be adding that to my mayor's messages as I find out more information about getting vaccines, both in Cook County and DuPage County. With that, this is our first meeting in 2021. I want to wish everyone a belated Happy New Year. This has to be a better year overall for all of us going forward than 2020 was. I'm glad to say 2020 was. So I wish you all a very Happy New Year and a better 2021 than 2020. With that, can I get a motion to adjourn to January 25 at 7 p.m.?
So moved. Schiappa.
Second, Schneider.
Second, Schneider. Roll call, please. Because
Trustee Schiappa? Trustee Schiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
Trustee Model? Trustee Model?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Paveza?
Yes.
6-0.
6-0, the motion passes. We're adjourned to January 25th. Thank you.
Thank you.